We come to the end of this phase of our life. We find ourselves trying to remember the good times, trying to forget the bad times. And we find ourselves thinking about the future. We start to worry, thinking, what am I going to do? Where am I going to be in 10 years? But I say to you, hey, look at me. Please, don't worry so much. Because in the end, none of us have very long on this earth.
It's hard living your dream. It's hard changing your life. Once you've been knocked out by life, it's hard to pull yourself together and go back again.
Yes. You a better person. Make an impact in this world. Don't look at it as though it's something that you got to do temporary. Although we know that life is short, like many people in this world, they didn't realize that the next day they was going to be diagnosed with a cancer. They thought that tomorrow was going to be waiting for them, and they did not wake up. But you are still living. Now, what do you have to do? How are you going to move forward? How are you going to proceed your life? Life is not a game. Life is living. There's the good and there's the bad, and there's definitely the right now. You can't wait for somebody else to make your life better. You got to make your life better. You got to focus on you. Now, I'm not saying forget the rest of the people, but I'm telling you to get rid of the things that are not making you strong, that are not making you better, that are not making you efficient, that's not putting you in a better place, that's not giving you the strength that you need to keep living the life that you have been given.
Everybody's got big plans, but the plan's out the window when they get punched in the face. Stuff happens that are completely out of your control. And when we make plans, it is impossible in our finite state to be able to predict the unusual, unprecedented circumstances that will dramatically affect our plans. Plans will change. So how will you take the next step?
When everything says quit, it keeps you going.
Life is going to test that will every time. Life is going to see how bad you want what you say you want.
You're going to make a lot of mistakes. You're going to have a lot of failures. You're going to have a lot of struggles. You're going to feel dumb and ask questions and don't know what to do or where to go. You got to know why you're out here, because you're going to get your butt kicked. When the storms of life come, and they're going to come, when life pounces on you, and that's going to happen, when it catches you on the blind side and drop you to your knees, and that's going to happen, when your plans don't work out, and that's going to happen, when you start running out of money, and that's going to happen, when you want to give up, and that's going to happen, your reasons will be your rod and staff to comfort you. Your reasons will be your bridge over troubled waters. But you got to know why you're there, because your reasons, when life drops you to your knees, your reasons will help you get back up. Times I wanted to give up. Why are you here, Les? Because I want to make Mama proud of me. Why are you here, Les? I promised my kids I'm going to do for them. I'm going to give them a better life. I want to leave them a legacy. I'm not going to give up. Go back, fool, go back. No.
I refuse to give up on my dream.
And I'm not going to let anything stop me.
Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
Pain is temporary. It may last for a minute, or an hour, or a day, or even a year. But eventually, it will subside, and something else will take its place. If I quit, however, it will last forever.
The margin for error is so small. I mean, 1/2 a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us. They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second.
You got a dream, you got to protect it. People can't do something themselves. They want to tell you you can't do it. You want something, go get it. Period.
Don't be afraid to fail. You can't always win, but don't be afraid of making decisions.
You have to believe that something different can happen. He who says he can and he who says he can't are both usually right. That most of you say you want to be successful, but you don't want it bad. You just kind of want it. You don't want it badder than you want to party. You don't want it as much as you want to be cool. Most of you don't want success as much as you want to sleep.
Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us.
Dig deep down, ask yourselves, who do you want to be? Figuring out for yourselves what makes you happy, no matter how crazy it may sound to the people.
Make a choice. Like, just decide what it's going to be, who you're going to be, how you're going to do it. Just decide.
Why not? Why can't I be the MVP of the league? Why can't I be the best player in the league? I don't see why. Why can't I do that?
What did you say to the kid? It ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward.
Get up. And don't ever give up.
We can stay here, get the shit kicked out of us, or we can fight our way back into the light. We can climb out of hell. 1 inch at a time.
To be able at any moment to sacrifice what you are for what you will become. Most of you won't be successful because when you're studying and you get tired, you quit. I don't do well in math. You're right. You ain't never studied. I'm not good in writing because you have never written before. Talent you have naturally. Skill is only developed by hours and hours and hours of beating on your craft. If you are not making someone else's life better, then you're wasting your time. Don't cry to give up. Cry to keep going. Don't cry to quit. You already in pain. You already hurt. Get a reward from it.
Now, if you know what you're worth, now go out and get what you're worth. But you got to be willing to take the hits and not point fingers saying you ain't where you want to be because of him or her or anybody. Cowards do that, and that ain't you. You're better than that.
Because every day is a new day. Every moment is a new moment.
I'm going to show you how great I am.
Now, what are you going to do?
Because limits, like fears, are often just an illusion.
My name is David Goggins. I created Goggins. Goggins is the guy that can take
anything you put in front of me. You want to break my legs? So be it. I have a way of going to a place like I did in that race where all the pain and suffering that they put on top of me in Hell Week, I will reverse that pain and suffering and I will take your soul. So every instructor that put me through Buzz, my job, what drove me was I wanted you to go home that night after you beat the living out of me and I smiled in your face. I wanted you to feel worse than I did and you were going home to a nice warm bed with your wife or your kids and a nice meal and I was still out there in the grip, suffering for another 100 hours. I wanted you to think about me knowing that I'm comfortable being very uncomfortable. And I want you to think about when you went through Hell Week, how uncomfortable you were and how bad you wanted to quit, knowing I'm not thinking that way. So the dark side is something that I've designed. It's an evil place I can go that very few things can hurt. I use the hurt you're trying to put on me, I flip it upside down and use it. You trying to use it for kryptonite? No, it's power pillars for me. I'm using it for strength. I just flip negative into positive, that's all it is. I was just an insecure, scared kid. And the only way I could find myself was through putting myself through the worst thing possible. My biggest advice to give everybody in the world is, like I say, we live in an external world. Everything is you gotta see it, touch it, it's external. If you can for the rest of your life live inside of yourself, stop listening to everything that makes no sense. All these insecure people putting their insecurities on you, you gotta flush it out. You gotta just be whoever the hell God or whatever the hell you believe in. If you believe in nothing but yourself, I don't care what it is. You gotta take everything and throw it away. You have to believe in one thing, and that is yourself. And I'm not saying don't believe in God or what you believe in, but right now, for you to find greatness in yourself, you're not gonna find it by looking in a book or by even hearing me. I may give you the spark, but you've got to go inside yourself to find it. And that means you gotta be quiet. Go in a room, stop talking, search your soul, search your mind, search your abilities, and you'll find it. But if you're not looking for it, you won't find it. So you gotta go start your journey. And the journey starts with you finding, why the hell am I here on this planet Earth? Why am I here? And if you don't know that, you will live the rest of your life searching, always asking the question, why? Whenever I'm weak at something, or whenever I'm scared of something, I master it. I was a weak-minded person, so I mastered my mind. And in mastering my mind, I mastered the human mind. And I realized why I no longer judge people, why I no longer put people on a pedestal, because we all have demons. Some people hide them better than other people. So I know we all have them. But me knowing that, I know that most alpha males are very fragile. Very fragile. They never want to see another person harder than them. So if I can hurt your ego, I got you. So I started using all these different tools and tactics to get in instructors' heads. And taking souls, that's where it happened, man. Mental toughness is not a class. We have this class, self-talk, visualization, arousal control. It's all great. It has to be a lifestyle. You work on mental callousing on a daily basis. Because even though your brain, your mind, your brain isn't a muscle so much, you will lose it. You will lose the ability to suffer in the worst of times if you come out of it for too long. If you can lift 315 pounds and you stop going to the gym for a month, I guarantee you won't be able to pick the same weight up again. If I went and said, I'm good, I gained all this knowledge. If I stop today, the knowledge is gone. I have to go back deep to retrieve it. I don't want to go back deep to retrieve it. I want to be able to call on it now. That's why I do these things. I know what not doing them will get me. I have a self-talk, it's called my cookie jar. And it's a constant reminder of every day of my life, I believe in quiet. There's no growth outside of quiet. The world's too noisy. Your mind needs quiet for you to find who you are. People ask, what's my purpose? Why am I here? You're not gonna find it nowadays unless you lock yourself in a quiet room in your mind. and find it. It's too noisy. For me, I could be in a busy street in New York City, horns honking, and I'm walking around with like nothing. It's me and myself in a quiet spot. And when you are constantly reflecting on who you are, where you've been, the journey you've gone through, the journey you can continue going through, the feeling's always there. You don't allow the world to pull you so fast that you forget. It's not about staying in that moment. It's about you want to get to the point where that feeling follows you like breathing. Becomes a part of your life, part of your DNA. But it's made. Like these calluses on my hands right now, they're made. They are now on my brain. This is now a part of me. It's a daily process, a part of me. We forget how badass we are in hard times. When times get hard, as I remind myself, I'm a bad motherfucker. Everything I went through in my life, every bad fucking thing I went through in my life, the 2 heart surgeries, all the name calling, being everything I went through. If you learn how to flip that motherfucker on top of his head and say, hang on, there's so much power in this fucking thing. And if you look at life as it is a trial ground, a testing ground for where you need to belong, where you need to go. Suffering is a fact of life. And if you look at suffering the right way, it's a great tool to callous your mind. If you look at it as suffering, woe with me, this is bullshit, God, kicking rocks. If you look at it like, okay, motherfucker, you're testing me now. I get it. Whenever I'm being like depressed, I go through depressed moments, I go, oh, hang on, I'm getting tested. So you have to be aware of all the signals and signs that are being given to you from the world. One of them is if you feel bad, you're being tested.
You guys know that, if you do the work, you work hard enough, dreams come true. You know that, we all know that. But hopefully what you get from tonight is the understanding that those times when you get up early and you work hard, those times when you stay up late and you work hard, those times when you don't feel like working, you're too tired, you don't want to push yourself, but you do it anyway. That is actually the dream. That's the dream. It's not the destination, it's the journey. And if you guys can understand that, then what you'll see happen is that you won't accomplish your dreams. Your dreams won't come true. Something greater will.
I play to figure things out. I play to learn something, right? Because I think if you play with a fear of failure or you play with a will to win or that supersedes a fear of failure, I think it's a weakness either way, right? Because if you play with the fear of failing, you'll have the pressure on yourself to play, to capitulate to that fear. If you play with the sense of I want to win, then you have the fear of what happens if you don't. But if you find common ground in the middle, in the center, then it doesn't matter. You're unfazed by either, right? That enables you to really just stay in the moment, stay connected to it, and not feel anything other than what's in front of you. So, I try to just be dead center. So if you fail on Monday, the only way it's a failure on Monday is if you decide to not progress from that. Right? So to me, that's why failure is not existent. Because, if I fail today, okay, I'm going to learn something from that failure and I'm going to try again on Tuesday.
What I've learned is to always keep going. Always. There's been times, particularly early in my career, where it just feels like this is the end. But what I've come to find out is that, no matter what happens, the storm eventually ends. And when the storm does end, you want to make sure that you're ready. And so I've really learned to put one foot in front of the other. Good, bad, or indifferent, because eventually that storm passes.
I think the best way to prove your value is to work, is to learn, is to absorb, to be a sponge. But you always want to outwork your potential. As hard as you believe you can work harder than that. And that's what I tried to do when I first came in the league. But basketball is such a direct competition sport that me coming in at 17, I hated when my teammates would say, I get hit with an elbow, right? Shaq would hit me with an elbow in practice. Nick Van Exel would come up and say, are you okay? I'm like, motherfucker, what? Imagine you wake up at 3, you train at 4, you go 4 to 6, come home, breakfast, relax, blah, blah, blah. Now you're back at it again, 9 to 11. right? You relax, and now all of a sudden you're back at it again, 2 to 4, and now you're back at it again, 7 to 9. Look how much more training I have done by simply starting at 4, right? And so now you do that, and as the years go on, the separation that you have with your competitors and your peers just grows larger and larger and larger and larger and larger. And by year 5 or 6, doesn't matter what kind of work they do in the summer, they're never going to catch up because they're 5 years behind. Right? So it makes sense to get up and start your day early because you can get more work in.
We're not on this stage just because of talent or ability. We're up here because of 4 a.m. We're up here because of 2-a-days or 5-a-days. We're up here because we had a dream and let nothing stand in our way. If anything tried to bring us down, we used it to make us strong. We were never satisfied, never finished, will never be retired. My high school English teacher, Mr. Fisk, I actually paid attention one time in class, and he said, he had this beautiful quote, and it read, "Rest at the end, not in the middle." And I took that to heart. I believe there's time for resting at the end, but for me, that time is not now, but I'm far from done. My next dream is to be honored one day for inspiring the next generation of athletes to have a dream, sacrifice for it, and never ever rest in the middle.
I switch my mode into something else, right? For me, it's the equivalent of Maximus Decimus Meridius in Gladiator picking up the dirt, smelling the dirt, it's go time. So that was my mental switch. It was like an actor getting ready for a film. You gotta put yourself in that cage. When you're in that cage, you are that character. And then when you leave there, it's something completely different. But when I'm in that cage, bro, don't fucking touch me. Don't talk to me. Just leave me alone.
Once you retire, you don't have that source of income that's coming in, right? So even if you save over a 15-year career, if your spending habits remain the same, eventually that well's gonna run dry. Right, so unfortunately for us athletes, the retirement age is 32, 34 if you're lucky, 37 like myself. What comes next? Right, so the question needs to be, what comes next? What can I do? What is my passion? Not where I can create the most value or generate the most revenue, but what is my next passion? When you find that next passion, everything else will make sense. But that's the hardest part for us.
The downstream effect of that is that in a capitalist system, it is a winner take all. You know, there's a billionaire in my building who he was asked on interview, he's like, if you had one thing that you could tell someone if they wanted to build, you know, a company like yours, and he said, your customer must absolutely love your product. A lot of people just underestimate the amount of effort it takes to go from good to great in a product or a service. It's like, if you've ever been to, like, the difference between a 5-star restaurant and a 4-star restaurant, you know, looks like 20%, but it's 10 times the effort. You know what I mean? The difference between like a 1 Michelin star and a 2 Michelin star restaurant is an ocean.
If somebody is starting from scratch, what are the traits, skill sets that they should be cultivating in order to up the odds of their success?
They should focus on one thing in general, rather than lots of different things that you're not sure about. Because if you're starting out, everything looks like an opportunity. So the correct answer is all of them are opportunities, but all of them won't work unless you pick one, right? So you have to say no to all the other mistresses. So boom, you pick one. And then from there, I always say 6 figures is sell something to someone. That's it. And if you want more detail, sell something to someone. So it's one avatar, one product, one channel. So you don't have to figure out, how do I create 20 pieces of content across? It's like, just pick one channel, one media source, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, you know, whatever, Twitter. Consistently start going on that, whether that's cold outbound, whether that's content, whether it's running paid ads, whether it's affiliates, word of mouth, whatever it is, and start reaching out to people there to start selling your stuff. Like Naval had this quote that I really like. He said, you're only selling because you don't know how to market, and you only market because you don't know how to build a product. Because like the best products market and sell themselves. Now, obviously, if you're Steve Jobs or Elon Musk, it's like you build amazing products and then you back them with unbelievable marketing, and then you have an army of salespeople that you know are selling for you. So it's like, then you have them all, and then you have a $1 trillion company.
Yeah.
But like just being exceptional at any of those will make you money. But you get the multiplicative, compounding effect if you're good at 2 or 3 of them.
Right. Where do people really struggle in that equation?
I think it's fear, mostly. I know that's not a skill, but I think it's a character trait. And so people are afraid of not getting validated, or they're afraid of judgment that they perceive from other people that exist or don't exist in their lives. And so for whatever reason, they have this second voice that criticizes everything they do that in reality isn't even there, but is constantly present. It's like the antithesis of whatever the God figure is, but just the negative voice. And so I think that's the thing that stops most people from doing the stuff they know they need to do. Because if you think about like, whether it's want to get in shape, or I want to have a better marriage, or I want to make more money, most people on some level, at a basic level, they know what to do. And my proof point of like even making money, right? Most of us have had a bill that came up that was unexpected, a tax bill, a car breaks down, a health thing, whatever it is, and we find a way. And so when it's for someone else, people use the actual resourcefulness that they have to make the money, but for whatever reason, they won't use that same resourcefulness to make it for themselves. And so I think that most people know if they want to work out, to get in shape or to lose weight, whatever, they know they need to eat fewer donuts and move more in general, but they don't, right? Because they're afraid of getting started, or they don't have the discipline to keep going, which is they can't make the short-term sacrifice for the long-term achievement.
Do you think it's going to be easier or harder to make money?
I think technology in general makes things easier for most people. I mean, because at the end of the day, it's increased access for more people.
Yeah.
And so I think
to reach more people at any moment.
Yeah. If I were just to use history as a guide, business has only gotten easier to get into. It's gotten more competitive and easier to get into. And so I think that what happens is just the arena gets bigger. So you got more gladiators, so it's more competitive, but more people can walk in. And so I think, but for the world in general, the more people you have fighting to make amazing products and services, the better it is for society.
Yeah.
But the downstream effect of that is that in a capitalist system, it is a winner take all.
What did you learn about the habits of the rich?
I haven't learned much about the habits of the rich at all, to be very candid with you. I think that maybe there are some beliefs that, because like my dad was a doctor, I wouldn't say he was like, ultra wealthy, but like we lived an upper middle class, lifestyle. But in terms of like wealth, as I think you and I would probably understand it, I didn't know anything about that. And I don't think I've ever really studied it very much. I would say that my heroes now, like I started studying wealth after I became wealthy. So like,
what did you learn about it afterwards? And what do wealthy people do that you think poor people don't do?
They pick higher leverage opportunities, in a sentence. So like rich dad, poor dad, like poor dad says get a job. Poor dad says get a higher paying job. Like rich dad says like, and the thing is there's so many innate beliefs that seem commonplace. Like, well, of course, you know what I mean? Like, well, of course, and you buy some real estate and it'll appreciate over time. Of course, you invest in some stocks. Like, yeah, of course. But like, poor dads just don't say that. And so you have to like learn that, I think. And I didn't, so I'm grateful in that I didn't have to learn that because I heard that just was, of course, yeah, once you have some money, like, of course you don't spend your whole income. Of course you don't. And so there's a lot of course you don'ts that I think I inherited just by being like a saving father. But there's also some upper middle class people who don't save anything. So like, but I think my dad did I think he helped a lot with like money hygiene. I think I've had a lot of really good money hygiene from my dad. The big breakthrough that I had for me was when I stopped focusing on, and this is going to sound backwards, but when I started my gyms, I was all about building the business, right? And when I built the biggest companies that I've had and now recently sold, and now we have our portfolio, it was about how do we make the most money? And I know that sounds completely backwards, but the only way that you can make the most money is to provide an exceptional valued service and charge a ton of money for it. And because I optimized around making money, I started going for low capital expense businesses because I had lost everything after that 5-year stint. And so I was like, never again am I going to reinvest every dollar from the business back into the business because I've lost it before.
If you look at everyone on Instagram, you might think, man, there are all these happy, beautiful people, and I'm not that good looking and I'm not happy. So I must suck, and that's gonna make people sad. So when in fact, those people you think are super happy, actually not that happy. Some of them are really depressed, they're very sad. Some of the happiest seeming people, actually some of the saddest people in reality. And nobody looks good all the time, doesn't matter who you are. Try to be useful. Do things that are useful to your fellow human beings, to the world. It's very hard to be useful. Very hard. Are you contributing more than you consume? Try to have a positive net contribution to society. If you can live a useful life, that is a good life, a life worth having lived. I would encourage people to use the mental tools of physics and apply them broadly in life. They're the best tools. But I encourage people to read a lot of books. Basically, try to ingest as much information as you can, and try to also just develop a good general knowledge. So you at least have like a rough lay of the land of the knowledge landscape. Like try to learn a little bit about a lot of things. Because you might not know what you're really interested in. How would you know what you're really interested in if you at least aren't like doing it? You know, talk to people from different walks of life and different industries and professions and skills and occupations. Like just try to learn as much as possible. A future that is inspiring and appealing. I mean, I just think that there have to be reasons that you get up in the morning and you want to live. Like, why do you want to live? What's the point? What inspires you? What do you love about the future? And if we're not out there, if the future does not include being out there among the stars and being a multi-planet species, I find that it's incredibly depressing if that's not the future that we're going to have. One of the biggest mistakes people generally make, and I'm guilty of it too, is wishful thinking. You know, like you want something to be true even if it isn't true. And so you ignore the things that, you ignore the real truth because of what you want to be true. This is a very difficult trap to avoid. And like I said, it's certainly one that I find myself in having problems with. But if you just take that approach of you're always to some degree wrong and your goal is to be less wrong, and solicit critical feedback, particularly from friends. Friends, if somebody loves you, they want the best for you. They don't want to tell you the bad things. So you have to ask them, you know, and say, really, I really do want to know, and then they'll tell you. I mean, I do think that, you know, in terms of creating a company, you know, what Edison said, which was like it's 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration is true. So a lot of it in creating a company is execution. Like you start off with an idea, and that idea is mostly wrong. And then you adapt that idea and keep refining it, and you listen to criticism. Some criticism you discard, try to discard the wrong criticism, try to listen to the correct criticism, and then engage in sort of a recursive self-improvement and constantly refining it and making it better. And you have to work super hard, and that's very important. And then just keep iterating on a loop which says, am I doing something useful for other people? Because that's what a company is supposed to do. Certainly being focused on something that you're confident will have high value to someone else, and just being really rigorous in making that assessment, because people tend to, a natural human tendency is wishful thinking. So a challenge for entrepreneurs is to say, well, what's the difference between really believing in your ideals and sticking to them versus pursuing some unrealistic dream that doesn't actually have merit, and just work like hell. I mean, you just have to put in, you know, 80 to 100 hour weeks every week. All those things improve the odds of success. If other people are putting in 40-hour work weeks and you're putting in 100-hour work weeks, then even if you're doing the same thing, you know that you will achieve in 4 months what it takes them a year to achieve. There's a friend of mine who's got a good saying, which is that starting a company is like eating glass and staring into the abyss. Okay, that's generally what happens, because when you first start a company, there's lots of optimism and things are great, and then so happiness at first is high. Then you encounter all sorts of issues, and happiness will steadily decline, and then you'll go through a whole world of hurt, and then eventually if you succeed, and in most cases you will not succeed, and Tesla almost didn't succeed, came very close to failure. Then if you succeed, then after a long time you will finally get back to happiness.
I know there is something I want to do, and I am not doing the thing because I'm scrolling Instagram. And so I've been thinking a lot over the last few months about, like, what does productivity actually mean to me? And the main insight that I've realized is that productivity, to be honest, isn't really about getting more things done. It's mostly about learning to enjoy the journey. Because when we're having fun with doing the things that we're doing, then productivity kind of just takes care of itself. And this is kind of obvious, right? Like, you know, when we're doing stuff that we enjoy, when we're hanging out with friends or watching Netflix or playing video games, we're never worried about our productivity. We're never worried about motivation. We never say, I need to be motivated to watch this next episode of Netflix or to play Warzone with the boys. We only really need motivation, in inverted commas, for the things that are like short-term painful for long-term gain. And we as humans, we are absolutely terrible at motivating ourselves to do things in service to our future selves because we're all obsessed with instant gratification. To overcome procrastination, we need to eliminate external friction, i.e. the environmental stuff. We need to try our best to get rid of the internal friction, like the emotional side of it, the mindset, the perfectionism, the fear, the discomfort. And then if we still need help, there are a few hacks. The one that I use all the time is the 2-minute rule, which is where I will genuinely convince myself I'm only going to do it for 2 minutes. And if I want, I'm allowed to stop after the 2 minutes because 2 minutes is better than nothing. But like 95% of the time, I decide to continue because 2 minutes is all you need to change your life. The way that I define productivity is just kind of using my time well and working on things that are meaningful to me and optimizing for happiness. I feel unproductive when I know there is something I want to do and I am not doing the thing because I'm scrolling Instagram. Yeah, so for example, this evening, I have a dinner with Tommy, who's sitting over there, and we're going to talk about some YouTuber Academy stuff. That's in the calendar. And so every time I look at my phone, I see, oh, that's coming up. And so it just gives me a little bit of happiness points in looking at it. So
I like the way of seeing it as happiness points.
Yeah, anticipation is free happiness. It's like, again, there's some kind of study that showed that the 2 weeks before a holiday give you more happiness points than the actual holiday. Because
I think I heard that somewhere.
Yeah, a lot of the value of a holiday, they're looking forward to it. This is something my English teacher used to say when I was like 12, that the key to a happy life is to have something to do, someone to love, and something to look forward to. Procrastination is a problem with getting started. Kind of this law of inertia, Newton's first law, that if something is at rest, it will continue to stay at rest. But if something's moving, it will continue to move without needing an external force. And so the key to overcoming procrastination is that little nudge at the start towards actually getting started. So I think for me, it's always been about finding a way to make things fun. Or like if we take a step back, it's like if you're doing something and you're finding it not fun, then is it an option to not do the thing? Because if that's an option, you can choose to just not do the thing. But for a lot of people, let's say you're a student and you have to do certain subjects even though you don't necessarily like them. And it's like, okay, cool. Now that I know that I'm doing the thing, how do I find a way to make it more enjoyable or make it more energizing? And I think the word energizing is better than the word fun or enjoyable because like not everything can be fun all the time.
Okay.
But generally I find that there are lots of things we can do to make stuff become more energizing rather than draining. Because draining stuff is not fun at all. For me, I found that actually just optimizing for what's fun has been the single biggest hack for my productivity ever. And finding like that, partly that's like choosing to do a thing, which I happen to find fun. You know, whole follow your passion stuff.
Sure.
But it's only recently that I've had the freedom to be able to do that. For the rest of my life, it was doing things other people / the schooling system was telling me to do. But even in those, finding ways to make them fun. And so now my advice for most people if they're struggling with productivity is find a way to make it fun. Yeah. The reason why we feel unconfident is because we mistakenly feel that confidence is a thing that has to be earned. That you have to acquire confidence somehow. By doing stuff. And it's like, what is that stuff? Well, I don't know, I mean repetition or whatever. But what this guy said, and he used to train magicians, he was like, you can simply choose to see confidence as a thing that you turn on or off. It is not a thing you need to acquire, it's not a thing you need to work towards, you can simply choose to be confident. And he's the one who said there's no difference between faking it and like real confidence and fake confidence.
Okay.
And so I think part of the reason people struggle with it, you know, social anxiety aside, because that's like a separate issue. But outside of those like situations, people struggle with it because we think it's a thing that you have to that you have to struggle with. A big shift for me was in changing the way that I approached my work.
Okay.
Because I remember when I was a medical student, I would often wake up happy, and a lot of my friends wouldn't. But I feel like there was some sort of difference in the approach to the work, where I was just a lot more chilled out about it, and a lot more like, hey, university is supposed to be fun, let's try and enjoy the journey as best as we can. Because I think often the experience of enjoyment is like a choice that you can make, rather than a position that you find yourself in. Whenever I have to do something that is going to drain my energy, or that does drain my energy, I think this is a problem, let's change it. Let's either change the situation or change my approach to the situation. Because one of those things I can control, or at least one of those things I can control.
I say, kid, your chances of being a great fighter or good enough to make a good living is about 100,000 to 1. And if you spend the most of your life trying to be a fighter and you get hurt or you don't make it, your whole life is ruined. It's too late to get education. It's too late to look for a trade or something to fall back on. I say, no, take your mind while you're quick for developing, go to school, learn to read, learn to write, be a mechanic, be a doctor, be a lawyer. Go now, learn, get your mind conditioned, spend one day. Same with basketball, same with football, same with baseball. You can't be like Muhammad Ali or Joe Frazier.
Personality of a person, the ways of a person, the thoughts, the deeds, the actions, it's all based around his heart. For what is a man? A man is his heart. A lying, cheating heart means a lying, cheating man. A loving, merciful heart means a loving, merciful man. A living heart means a living man. A dead heart means a dead man. Regardless to man's title, regardless to man's wealth, rank, or position, if the heart is not great, then he cannot be great. But if the heart is great, that man remains great under all circumstances, rich or poor, large or small. So it is the heart that makes one large or small.
Why do we go to the moon? Because of that. Why are we trying to go to Mars? Because of that. Columbus wouldn't have discovered America if he didn't take a risk. So he who is not courageous enough to take risk will accomplish nothing in life. Well, let me tell you why they're frightened. Some people can see farther than others. Some people are impressed with limitations. We all live in our own world of limitations. Some people can see farther than others. So therefore, when people judge what I'm doing with their logic, it can't be done. Their reasoning says it can or shouldn't be done. Their knowledge of history says it can't be done. So their reasoning, their knowledge, and their logic clashes with my superior belief. Therefore, the result is they don't believe.
Life can be heavy, especially if you try to carry it all at once. Part of growing up and moving into new chapters of your life is about catch and release. What I mean by that is knowing what things to keep and what things to release. You can't carry all things, all grudges, all updates on your ex. Decide what is yours to hold and let the rest go. My experience has been that my mistakes led to the best things in my life. And being embarrassed when you mess up, it's part of the human experience. Getting back up, dusting yourself off, and seeing who still wants to hang out with you afterward and laugh about it, that's a gift. The times I was told no, or wasn't included, wasn't chosen, didn't win, didn't make the cut. Looking back, it really feels like those moments were as important, if not more crucial, than the moments I was told yes. That you don't always get all the things in the bag that you selected from the menu in the delivery surface that is life. You get what you get. And as I would like to say to you wholeheartedly, you should be very proud of what you've done with it.
You're seeing all these angles of your own life, and then you compare it to other people's lives when you don't see what they're going through. You just see the good parts of what they're going through. When you start to compare yourself to other people, please change the channel in your mind to something else. Because I think that when it comes to how we see ourselves, other people are really mean, but we're really mean to ourselves. And so it's easy to get confused. And when you do get confused, and you start feeling like you're not special, or you're not different, or you have nothing important to say. We all feel like that sometimes. But I want you to do right now, if there's one thing you remember from tonight, remember what I'm about to say. You need to look into the mirror in the morning and not tell yourself that you're not special, or you're not good enough, or you're not awesome. I'm gonna tell you right now the things you actually are not, okay? These are the things you really are not. You are not the opinion of somebody who doesn't know you. You are not damaged goods just because you've made mistakes in your life. You are not going nowhere just because you haven't gotten where you want to go yet. Those are the things you actually are not. Now, I want to tell you what you are. You are your own definition of beautiful and worthwhile. You are someone who is wiser because you made mistakes, not damaged, wiser. You are somebody who could be at this moment, right now, sitting there. You are going through whatever you're going through in your life that's stressing you out or confusing you or making you upset. It's about just getting on with things sometimes. Sometimes you just get credit for getting up and going on with things. And you don't have to do it perfectly. And I think that we mistake our mistakes for damage, and we think other people will judge us for them. But I want you to know that the way I see mistakes, they don't make you damaged. They make you clean.
When you put your whole heart and soul into something, and it is met with cynicism or skepticism, you cannot let that crush you. You have to let it fuel you, because we live in a world where anyone has the right to say anything that they want about you at any time. But just please remember that you have the right to prove them wrong. You know, people go on and on about like you have to forgive and forget to move past something. No, you don't. You don't have to forgive, and you don't have to forget to move on. You can move on without any of those things happening. You just become indifferent, and then you move on for people that are important in your life who have added, you know, who have enriched your life and made it better, and also there's been some struggle and some bad stuff too. But I think that, you know, if something's toxic and it's only ever really been that, what are you gonna do? Just move on, it's fine.
I don't think you should ever have to apologize for your excitement just because it's like, I don't know, just because something's cliche doesn't mean that it's not something that's awesome. Like, the worst kind of person is someone who makes someone feel bad, dumb, or stupid for like being excited about something. You really can't care at a certain point if you're gonna be honest about what you think and how you feel and what you believe in. Like, it's just, you have to, I think, put it out there and then just log off. So that's what I do.
Let me just speak from the heart, speak from my gut, and really not have anything prepared, but just tell you what's worked for me. And maybe some of the stuff that's worked for me might work for you now, currently, presently, as you guys have your goals and ambitions, NBA championship, MVPs in this room, things like that. But then further on down the line, as you guys continue to live your life. The first thing I would just want to say is, this idea and this notion that you can be anything you want, you can accomplish anything you want, right? We hear that. You've heard that from the time you were little boys. You hear that now. You're already incredibly accomplished. You can win an NBA championship, MVP of the league. You could become president. You could become governor. You could do Charles, and you could do Shaq. You could do that. You could do whatever you want to do. You guys know that. The thing that has worked for me is to remember the hard times. A lot of you guys know I grew up here in Hawaii with my family, where we struggled, man, like a lot of you guys out there, struggled to pay the rent, hustled, doing everything we could to get by. You know you're getting your ass kicked when your rent is due by the week. We had a weekly rent. We couldn't even afford that. We eventually got kicked off the island. We got evicted. But what I want to tell you guys is, if you're going through some hard times, you got to hold on to that fundamental quality of faith and hard work, because on the other side of those hard times is something better, is a better life. You know, this life here, this was never my dream. My dream was, I just didn't want to be evicted anymore. So hold on to faith, keep working hard. Aloha. When I was 22 years old, I came to this city for the first time. I was playing in the Canadian Football League, playing my first pro football game. I was playing for the Calgary Stampeders. We were playing the BC Lions. I was so excited. 2 days later, I got cut. The dream shattered, sent home with $7 in my pocket. I was like, wait, no, I gotta play in the NFL eventually. Those are my big goals. That's my dream. You realize that playing in the NFL was the best thing that never happened, because it got me here. So my point is, look, you're gonna get your ass kicked. We're gonna get the shit kicked out of us. You gotta get up. You gotta have faith that the one thing you wanted to happen oftentimes is the best thing that never happened. So have faith, just keep that in mind, and keep plugging away. It's just a bar. Cold steel in an empty gym. No. It's much more than that. I don't just load these bars with metal plates. I put everything on them. My anxieties, my fears, my hopes, my dreams, my responsibilities as a provider, a father, a husband, a businessman, and some say even a leader. Whatever I'm dealing with out there, that's what I'm working through in here. And in the gym, as in life, raising the bar isn't always about putting on a big show. It's the small, quiet promises you make to yourself. The ones you could break and no one would know. But you don't. You show up every day and meet this gym on its terms, with humility, gratitude, and respect. Through struggle, through pain, through sweat, through the little voice deep in your gut that says you could quit at any second. But you don't. You raise and raise and raise again. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. When we were 14 years old, we lived in Hawaii, and we lived in a small efficiency apartment. And my mom and I came home, and I'll never forget, the rent was $180 a week. And there was an eviction notice on the door. My mom started crying, and I never forgot in that moment. It was a seminal moment for me, because I felt like I never want to be in this position again. But I feel this way, like, oh, you know, we're a month away from being evicted. I got to go to work. Like, I still have that in my head. You still have that. I still have that in my head, you know, but it keeps you grounded, by the way. My back is up against this motherfucker every day. It's against this fucking wall. And when my back is against this motherfucker, then there's nowhere to go but that way. And I don't give a who is in front of me. They're not going to stop me. I found that with depression, one of the most important things you could realize is that you're not alone. You're not the first to go through it. You're not going to be the last to go through it. And oftentimes it happens. You feel like you're alone, and you feel like it's only you, and you're in your bubble. And I wish I had someone at that time who could just pull me aside and, hey, it's going to be okay. It'll be okay. So I wish I knew that. Just got to remember. Hold on to that fundamental quality of faith. Have faith that on the other side of your pain is something good.
When I was young, I didn't really know what I was going to do when I got older. I read a quote from Arthur C. Clarke, which said that a sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, and that's really true. If you go back, I think it actually goes beyond that, because there are many things that we take for granted today that weren't even imagined in times past. They weren't even in the realm of magic. But one of the issues with social media that's been pointed out by many people is that I think maybe particularly Instagram, people look like they have a much better life than they really do.
Right.
So
by design.
Yeah, people are posting pictures of when they're really happy. They're modifying those pictures to be better looking. Even if they're not modifying the pictures, they're at least selecting the pictures for the best lighting, the best angle. So people basically seem they're way better looking than they basically really are.
Right.
And they're way happier seeming than they really are. So if you look at everyone on Instagram, you might think, man, there are all these happy, beautiful people, and I'm not that good looking and I'm not happy. So I must suck, and that's gonna make people sad. So when in fact, those people you think are super happy, actually not that happy. Some of them are really depressed. They're very sad. Some of the happiest seeming people, actually some of the saddest people in reality. And then I think that the final thing I would encourage you to do is, now is the time to take risk. But as you get older, your obligations increase. So and once you have a family, you start taking risk not just for yourself, but for your family as well. It gets much harder to do things that might not work out. So now is the time to do that. Before you have those obligations. So I would encourage you to take risks now, do something bold. I always had sort of a slight existential crisis because I was trying to figure out what does it all mean? Like, what's the purpose of things? And I came to the conclusion that if we can advance the knowledge of the world, if we can do things that expand the scope and scale of consciousness, then we're better able to ask the right questions and become more enlightened, and that's really the only way forward.
I think also people tend to overweight risk on a personal level. Let's say you're young and you're just coming out of college or coming out of high school or whatever. What do you risk? You're not going to stop.
So what does super hard mean? Well, when my brother and I were starting our first company, instead of getting an apartment, we just rented a small office and we slept on the couch. And we showered at the YMCA, and we're so hot up we had just one computer. So the website was up during the day, and I was coding at night, 7 days a week, all the time. And I sort of briefly had a girlfriend in that period, and in order to be with me, she had to sleep in the office. So work hard, like every waking hour. That's the thing I would say particularly if you're starting a company.
The difference between really believing in your ideals and sticking to them versus pursuing some unrealistic dream that can actually have merit. And that is a really difficult thing to tell. Can you tell the difference between those two things? Very rigorous in your self-analysis. I think certainly being focused on something that you're confident will have high value to someone else, and just being really rigorous in making that assessment, because people tend to, a natural human tendency is wishful thinking. So a challenge for entrepreneurs is to say, well, what's the difference between really believing in your ideals and sticking to them versus pursuing some unrealistic dream that doesn't actually have merit? And that is a really difficult thing to tell. Can you tell the difference between those two things?
Right.
So you need to be sort of very rigorous in your self-analysis. I think certainly extremely tenacious, and then just work like hell. I mean, you just have to put in, 80 to 100 hour weeks every week. If you assume things are true by convention, which is actually what most people do, then it's difficult to gain insight into how things can be bettered. You want to make sure that the underlying premises are valid and applicable, and then in reaching a conclusion, that the conclusion you're reaching is necessarily the underlying premises and the interconnection between those premises. Well, I mean, Tesla really faced a severe threat of death due to the Model 3 production ramp. Essentially, the company was bleeding money like crazy, and just if we didn't solve these problems in a very short period of time, we would die. And it was extremely difficult to solve them.
How close to death did you come?
Within single-digit weeks.
22 hours a day? I think. How many hours?
Just working, so 7 days a week, sleeping in the factory. I worked in the paint shop, general assembly, body shop. No one should put this many hours into work. This is not good. People should not work this hard. I'm
They should not do this. This is too very.
There's blessing in the breaking. Every moment that you encounter in your life, even if it's just road rage, as simple as that to maybe losing someone that you love, there is no perfect way to heal. There is no perfect way of dealing with something. It's more just, how am I going to be a better person? How am I going to make the best choice for myself so that I don't end up angry at that person on the highway? How can I turn something like losing someone I so dearly love into, well, how can I celebrate that person and the great things that they provided me or that they gave me?
I know what it's like to be judged and to be put down. I know what it's like to have other people form opinions of you without even knowing you, trying to dim your light. I know what you guys go through because I go through it every single day, but I don't let it get to me. It's entirely normal to get pulled off course and just to get in my mind and let that inside and distract me from who I am. But if I actually did that, it would drive me crazy. I want to say you are not defined by an Instagram photo, by a like, by a comment. That does not define you. I want you guys to know that the trick is to focus on the love. And what I want you guys to do, every rude comment you get, every person that tries to hurt you personally or through the internet, I want you to forgive them. There is so much love in this world and in this stadium. Do not limit yourself because of what others expect. We all deserve more than we think, and in the end, nobody remembers those haters, the comments, nobody remembers them. They're just background noise. When it's over, nothing defines you but what you leave behind and what lives you touch on the way. It's a lesson that I'm still trying to learn, but I'm so grateful for what I have, and I am ready for what comes next in my life. And if you take just one thing from today, let it be this. I want you guys to believe in yourselves because I believe in you, and you guys need to believe in each other. Like my friend Taylor says, the haters are gonna hate, just shake it off. So just do you. Be true to yourself, love yourself, have confidence in yourself, and everything will be fine.
You're not meant to put a goal on your life. You're not meant to say, once I get there, I'll have it all. I think that's the biggest lesson I've needed to learn, is how to be present in that moment and to know that I'm always going to strive for something. I think everybody who's watched my story, they've seen that not everything has kind of been handed to me. And I've been honest about everything. Some of the things that haven't been me in the past, and other things I've been so passionate about and so spot on with. So if anything, that's what Revival represents. It's that I feel the most confident I've ever felt, and it goes like that. It's constantly changing, and I don't know, I think that's what I want it to feel like. So I think I've been doing this long enough to realize that no matter what people perceive of me, I always shine through at the end of the day. So I've had a lot of people try to tear me down, but I'm here. And I have always been myself, and I've always wanted that, and I've been graceful, and I've tried to handle myself with as much class, and it's only because I know how hard I work, and I'm not gonna let any of that get to me. So when life comes at you with your worst, you have a choice to stand there, accept it, and move forward, or just put it off and say, maybe later. But my suggestion, and the only thing I've ever known, is now is everything. So enjoy it. I think we're always gonna have that choice, no matter how old you are. It's like you're gonna do something and you're gonna say, this might be right, this might be wrong, but I'm just gonna go for it and see what happens and hope for the best. This is what I'll say about every single person that has judged me, for every decision I've made, for every person, every heart that is being judged for something they've done. And now I just wanna release it, and I wanna keep going, and I wanna work on things and have all the focus then just be on what I love and have fun and new music and a new chapter in my life. I'm excited.